Hello, this is Jane Taylor. I'm an improvement advisor for the Surviving Sepsis campaign, sponsored by the Society of Critical Care Medicine. I'm here today to talk about leadership that is required for spread. So the first thing that leaders do is they set the pace. How do you do this? Well, what we've learned from the Five Alive campaign in Ghana through IHI is that you need to create a tension. And that tension is a sense of urgency around the status quo. So you want to create a dissatisfaction with the status quo and a sense of urgency for the goal or the direction that you're moving with your spread project. And then it's important to have a clear vision of the work. And not only that leadership have a clear vision of what you're trying to create, but that you speak it often, you name it, and set goals with a timeline. So you've created a sense of dissatisfaction with the status quo and a sense of urgency with where you're going. You're able to name it, and it's got goals and a timeline. So we usually call that an aim statement, where you say what you're going to improve, by how much, and by when. And this would be for the spread project. Your spread project might be for your institution, your system, your part of the country, or for the world in the case of the sepsis campaign. So you want to adopt a spread plan as you go and change it and make adaptations to it based on what you're learning, based on the experience of the various teams who are implementing the changes that are required for spread. So your spread plan is dynamic. And then as a leader, you set a relentless focus on testing the changes, implementing the changes, and spreading them across the various units. So if you're at the hospital level, making sure that it's not just an activity of the emergency department or the ICU, but in fact every unit in the institution is thinking about sepsis, screening patients for sepsis, and spreading and adopting the changes. So you have this relentless attention, and that includes improving data collection across the spread units and reviewing that data. So you start every meeting again looking at data to see, are we improving? How is our pace? Are we getting where we want to go fast enough? What barriers are in our way? And as leaders, your number one responsibility is to ask those around you to identify the barriers, and then you set the agenda to eliminate those barriers. And then you make sure that you are communicating and focusing on the most powerful set of changes that need to be adopted across the organizations. So there's setup that's required for leadership for spread, and that setup means, who is my core leadership team? Do I have a designated project leader who is responsible for this spread project? Do I have a hospital leader responsible for spread? And then at each unit, is there a responsible person on each med-surg unit who knows that part of their job is to implement the changes that are required to reduce mortality due to early identification and response to sepsis? And do you have people responsible for collecting data who understand how to collect the data, the frequency to collect the data, the importance of it, and how to display that data and support the unit leads to really understand if there's improvement? So the data and the unit leads need to work very closely hand in hand. Sometimes they can be the same person. So as a leader, you've got your core leadership team, project leads, hospital leads, and unit leads, and data leads. Then good leaders schedule monthly meetings to review the spread progress. And so you start each one of those meetings reviewing the data, and then you ask for which of the changes have been implemented where, what new barriers are emerging, what results are we getting, where are we stymied and not getting results. So you really want to know the extent of adoption of the spread changes. That monthly meeting doesn't have to be an hour, but it needs to be regular, because that's part of communicating to the entire organization the relentlessness of your focus. So it actually requires a lot, it demands a lot of leaders. And it requires that you really be disciplined about that relentlessness. So even if it's not the top item on your leadership agenda, maybe it's the third or fourth item, you still have to attack it with a kind of relentlessness that communicates to the people doing the spread that it is important to the organization and important to patients and families. So you are making sure that there are adaptations for the changes that are being made. If they have to be tweaked as they're adopted, that those are being captured in a kind of knowledge management system and then communicated broadly. So if a particular med-surg unit discovers a better way to do a spread change that they are implementing, then that better way needs to be recommunicated back out to all those who are involved in the change. And then you've got to make sure that the leaders around you who are supporting your strategic effort for spread have adequate improvement expertise. So all of those designated spread leaders I just mentioned need in-depth quality improvement training and development as coaches of improvement. So it's not enough that they attend a 1-hour seminar. They really need some in-depth QI knowledge. And part of your responsibility of a leader, as a leader, is to make sure that that happens. And then this needs to be adapted for others that need access to improvement methodology and improvement know-how. So that means making sure that the teams are doing this, that do the spread work, are trained and supported in not just improvement science, but how to work as a team and how to use that improvement capability to get results. So in Ghana, one of the things that the Institute for Healthcare Improvement learned is that they could not underestimate the depth of training and the breadth of training that was needed across the country as they moved from one pilot site to 5 to 25 to 125. So making sure that you don't underestimate that is an important part of your leadership. And then as a leader, and this is not new to you who are leaders, is you have to model the way. So that means showing what you expect from others. If you set a deadline, you set those monthly meetings, they happen. That you are actually following up with what you say and setting high quality standards for the project and living up to them. So if everybody needs training, making sure that happens, making sure that people are getting to the workshops, and then you have to stay informed about the project. And I have seen some leaders that have a pre-meeting 10 minutes before the meeting to get thoroughly briefed and brought up to speed so that they can participate with their full attention when they finally do meet with the team. So you are disciplined about meeting the deadlines, disciplined about follow-up, and then you are showing others by your actions that you're really serious. So when you look at data at the first opening of a meeting, you're modeling the way that everybody that reports to you involved in this project and all of your stakeholders, even if they don't report to you, are doing the same. And then you have to set the pace. You have to create the expectation that things will improve rapidly. That's part of why we set a deadline. By when do we want this to happen? What changes do we want spread across every unit in our hospital by when? And then inquire often about the project. Make sure that their goals are set and reset as you start to achieve them, that the objectives and the expectations are communicated and met, and that the timelines are ambitious, but that there's a sense of accountability around those timelines. So holding the team and others accountable is a big part of it. And if those that are doing the work cannot meet their accountability, that doesn't mean they're failing. It really is a signal there's something to learn. And that learning usually involves some sort of barriers that are standing in the way to implementation. And again, that's what you want to know about as a leader so that you can support the team in helping eliminate those barriers. So as a leader, you're going to communicate often with your team about the project. You want to model open communication. That means asking questions, using inquiry, welcoming questions for others, and asking for feedback and having the tough role of having to hear the tough messages. So if you ask for feedback and you get feedback that doesn't please you, it's important not to shut down communication, but to listen and continue in dialogue to understand what the issues are. Encourage others to speak up and be fearless. So you want to create this fearlessness with those who are around you to express their opinions, so that you don't get blindsided, so that all the issues surface. And then asking for data or information around assumptions. So when you hear assumptions at the table, they can be challenged and data collected to either affirm those assumptions or reframe them. So the main thing here is to be receptive. Use your team to surface barriers, infrastructure challenges that require your leadership intervention. And then the tough part is being responsive and helping solve those infrastructure challenges and barriers. So as a leader, don't forget, focus on data. I know I'm harping on it, but it's so important because data leads to questions about changes. Make it clear that you are accountable for the improvement and all those around you are helping achieve that. And then wherever you can, distribute leadership. That means grow leaders, even among your stakeholders. Develop and share leadership for the project, even though you are still accountable for the improvement. The more you can distribute leadership and empower others to act, the easier it will be to achieve your results. And I guess I could summarize it, and I took this from the Lessons Learned document. Expect a lot and appreciate more. So in summary, lead by example. Set up a leadership system that's going to work for your spread project. Make sure that all of those involved in it have strong QI capability. That means up and down your organization and across your organization. Communicate your expectations, accountability, the challenges, the results, and the breakthroughs that you have around some barriers and infrastructure issues. Focus relentlessly on